Yes, sir.
That small baby shit, brother.
Let's go make money together.
It's either get it or be eaten.
Is addiction a choice or disease?
Choice. Ask me again.
Is addiction a choice or a disease?
Choice.
And why is it a choice?
Because you chose to take it. Take it. You chose to take it. Nobody put a gun to your head. Real talk.
So have you had any addictions?
Hell yeah, dog. Beer, weed, cigarettes. Shit, I like exercising. That's an addiction as well. Exercising. Hey, adrenaline junkie. Oh my god. Real talk, man.
So how do people cure themselves from addiction? Oh, I guess it's not, they don't need a cure, it's a choice, right?
Yeah, it's a choice. You choose to cure yourself. You can either choose to cure or you can choose to kill yourself. Your choice.
Is addiction a choice or a disease?
A disease.
And why do you say that?
Because we build them.
Yeah, but you chose to do it though.
Yeah, you got a choice.
Yeah, you chose
Yeah.
to disease yourself with that motherfucking drug, motherfucking person, motherfucking thing you do, dog. It's okay.
What do I
Coffee
do?
is an addiction.
What do I do?
Coffee.
What do I do?
What? You make money. Hey, but by all means, you could be addicted to making money, but that's called hustling. All right? That's called hustling, now. Real talk.
No extra dollars.
So why do you think it's a disease?
It's a disease because you have to, you feel the want of needing it once you use it because you love that feeling. That feeling.
I'm addicted.
It's that feeling that you want. But after that first time, you will never get that feeling again. But you'll look for it consistently.
Yeah, but
Which is insanity.
How do you cure an addiction?
How do you cure an addiction? By seeking help. By seeking help. That's how you cure an addiction. But you also gotta be willing to put your part in and your effort. You know what I'm saying? You gotta put your effort in and fight for yourself.
I gotta
You know what I'm
add
saying?
on to that.
You gotta love
Real
yourself.
talk.
You gotta
You
love
can
yourself.
do this shit, man. That on nigga.
How do you cure an addiction?
First that way, accept you're an addict. Accept that shit.
Admit
Admit it, nigga. Speak it out loud, cuz sabes que yo soy. I'm addicted to pussy.
A mí me gusta la loquera.
A mí me gusta lo que era. And shit. Type shit. I'm addicted to being a loco.
I mean, there's times that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, man, why do I do this shit?
Right?
Why do I do it?
Right.
And I tell you, because
It makes me
it's here.
feel good.
No, because it's here.
Because it's here and it makes me feel
Because
good.
it's here, and if I don't find something productive to do, then I'm gonna do that.
All right.
Think. Is addiction a choice or a disease?
Addiction is most likely for most people it's a choice because you can choose to not be addicted to whatever you're addicted to.
You think so?
Yeah,
Do you have any addictions that you're facing right now?
not really, not right now. At
Do you-
this point, right now, not right now. I mean, I had a lot, but that's why you can just move away from your addictions and just not. You could choose not to be addicted to something.
What were some of your addictions?
I mean, you could choose to be addicted to a person that you like a lot, but you know, it's all in your head. And they call you what you call it, obsessed, but whatever, right?
Right. Is addiction a choice or a disease?
Addiction's a disease. The same way that your brain is wired to go ahead and obesity is a disease. We have we're fueled by dopamine. We're fueled by this necessity to obtain what we can't have or to fill that dopamine need. So you look at gambling. Gambling's an addiction because it hits the same wires. You're going through withdrawals, but as soon as you get something, you get that hit, boom, that dopamine goes. Sugar's an addiction. You get that dopamine release in your brain, and what it does is it just signals some happiness. Drugs do the same thing. They trigger that same dopamine response, and boom, you get an addiction. And when you hit that addiction, every time you get that dopamine blast, what happens is you don't get that anymore. You know, it fades away real quick. So that first hit is always good because this is the first time you've ever had it. And then you know, your brain stops producing so much. Boom, so you need a bigger hit. Your brain stops producing so much, you need a bigger hit.
So how do you combat an addiction?
Yeah, we start with mental health. It's about, some addictions are just chemical. It's chemical imbalance. So you find a way to get people wired. So what happens is they produce their own dopamine. Two, it's about why that addiction, why that dopamine is such a necessity in life. this idea of needing to feel good, needing to feel something in your head. It's capitalism in a sense. You know, we all have addictions. We all have this need to get that hit, to feel sensation, to feel like we're doing something. Same way, you know, people will shop, get that addiction. They want that hit. We value material items. So as a world, when you're getting that material thing, that's your dopamine hit.
Do you have any addictions that you're facing?
Me? Nah, dog. I know how to deal with my addictions.
Even those pop figures?
That's a choice. I can stop. I'm not needing to buy another one. It's a way to express myself, but if I don't have them, I'm good. I don't need that for my dopamine hit. I also don't need to have that hit all the time. It's not a requirement in my brain. It's not a requirement for my life. To be happy and to be sad, those are extremities that we both are extremities that we don't always have to hit. You know, you don't have to go through life happy all the time or joyous, or you need that all the time. So we as a society need to realize that that's part of the addiction. Capitalism is part of the addiction. This idea that you need to be happy. This idea that happiness is equated by material gains. This idea that if we're not getting that, there's something wrong with us. And we start there. We start addressing what it means to be happy, what it means to be addicted to something, what that addiction means. You know, what are you doing to fill that in? Because people can be addicted to their families. That's a healthy addiction. They're the people who get you around. But when you're addicted to chemical items, that's a hit in the material world. And now you need material items to take care of that. Not all things can be solved by just saying get over it. And that's one of the problems that we as a society need to understand. Is mental health is a physical health.
Addiction a choice or a disease?
It's a choice. Let me tell you why. Growing up as kids, when we learned about the diseases, it was something we had no control over.
Yeah.
But when we learn about choices in life, we pick and choose what we want to do. We may not know it's going to grow into addiction once we start it. But the more and more, whatever it is, it can be from beer, drugs, hell, even women. Mm-hmm. But you continue to do it, you get addicted to it. It's hard to let go. When it comes to making choices, that's why there's always two parts. It's you making a decision on whether you want to, or you making a decision on whether you don't want to. Always the choice is yours. Addiction.
¿Es una enfermedad o es una decisión?
Es una enfermedad porque cuando ya la tienes ya no la puedes dejar, y hasta hay doctores y expertos que te ayudan a superarla. Al principio es una decisión porque tú decides si quieres entrar o no, pero ya después, ya cuando es adicción, ya es una enfermedad.
Is addiction a choice or a disease?
I believe that if one person chooses to do something repeatedly, doesn't necessarily mean it's an addiction. It could be just something they like doing on a daily basis, whether it's a drug or whatever the case may be. Now, if you overdo something and you get sick from it, you know, people want to say that it's a sickness, but it's not really a sickness or a disease. It's more so how someone adapts to their environment, and sadly some people have a negative environment. That's why when they're choosing whatever they want to choose of their choice, is because they know what they're doing and they know the outcome, because they could be sad or whatever the case may be, but it doesn't really help them, and we see it as addictions. But for me, really, I think addiction, whether if it's a choice or a disease, at the end of the day, you know, if you're a grown-ass person, you know what you're doing, the outcome shouldn't matter, and you shouldn't worry about other people either. I think that's my personal opinion on that.
Hello, now I'm just running up that line, I am not Carmelo. Hello, now I'm just running up.
Is addiction a choice or a disease?
Is addiction a choice? We were just talking about that right now, actually. My answer to that was, it's both, bro. It's a choice that becomes a disease that will decay you and destroy you. Or just depending on your will, bro, también how strong you really are, bro. Like it can like actually make you a better person after going through a certain amount of events that will actually mold you and help you grow away. Cause like as we all know, even Gary Vee has said it way before, where you gotta fail and you gotta fail with before you actually succeed, my nigga. Practice makes perfect. That's why I view as addictions, like you said, where at one point in life, where it was someone's choice because of the past events that have been going on in his life. You never know what he's doing to numb that pain. But it becomes a disease when you no longer have control of it. So when you don't control it no more, you lose control of it, you lose control of yourself, you start hurting people around you, people you hurt, that's when you become toxic. You know, at first, it's more of a choice with it, numb your pain, and then it's like a disease that will like start affecting everybody else around you, bro.
What do you think, Ozzy?
See, I have to agree with like Luis's views that first it is a choice. You know, it's there's no doubt about it. It's a choice that eventually becomes a trend. But it's like why do people end up in addiction? You know, and I believe it's because you keep making that same choice. But why? You know, no one wants to be an addict. You know, no one wakes up and they're like, guys, I just feel like being an addict today. No one does that. You know, I think it's just like people's thresholds on pain and how they handle certain tribulations, certain obstacles. You could be mad about it for like maybe 3 days, maybe I'll take a week to get over that. You know, it depends on the individual and how they handle, you know, certain issues that come to their life. And based on that, you know, we all look for an escape, you know, even if it's just for an hour or 2 hours or more plus or whatever, you know, and it just becomes a trend. It becomes something that we feel that we can escape to, and we feel like it's helping us, you know, but in reality, it's probably not helping us, you know. But I do believe that at first it's obviously a choice, like no one makes you. You know, you decide that for yourself.
Is addiction a choice or a disease?
A choice.
And why is it a choice?
Because before it became an addiction, you made the choice to taking it. Now you're addicted and you want to consider it a disease. That's not right.
What's up, everybody? Hugo Infinity here for another Talk to Me Tuesday. Now, I asked a question to a lot of people. Is addiction a choice or is addiction a disease? And I've been very interested with the answers people have given. You know, I've seen both sides of the coin. You know, I've seen a lot of people say it's a choice. You know, you choose to put yourself in that scenario, that situation. I've seen others say it's a disease, you know, something that we can't control. And I think the answer that I agree with, it is a disease that we self-inflict through choice. I really honestly feel like that summarizes it, you know? But I also feel like it is circumstantial because, for example, babies that are born addicted to alcohol or heroin or crack, you know, they didn't have a choice. But that addiction is very real. It's a very real disease that requires treatment. I say this, addiction itself is a disease. Addiction itself is something that we cannot control, that requires treatment, that requires help, that can literally become a physical addiction, a chemical dependency. You know, it can literally, you know, can literally affect your whole body, your whole mindset. For example, the reason why a lot of these liquor stores were deemed essential businesses was because doctors didn't want alcoholics going into withdrawals during this whole COVID pandemic. And so, addiction itself, physical dependency, emotional dependency is very real. But a lot of times, you know, in certain situations, it's a choice to put yourself there. You know, you choose to expose yourself to something. You choose to take that first hit, that first drink, or you choose to keep returning to a certain thing, you know? And there's a very fine line between choice and disease, because over time when you keep choosing something, it's hard to tell when it's you that's choosing it or your addiction that's choosing it. You know, it's very difficult because I do feel like after a certain point, after choosing something for so many times, there's gonna be a little change in your brain chemistry. Also, you know, that mental filter we have that says don't do this, it vanishes. You know, addiction is it's very serious at times, you know, depending on what we're addicted to. You know, we could be addicted to people, it could turn into obsession, you know. A lot of that is mental, and you know, we can control some aspects of it. We can choose to fight a disease. We can choose to fight addiction. For example, it's like they say, fear or danger is real. Fear is a reaction. Fear is a choice. People might argue. But a phobia is a disease. I think it all really boils down to the potency of an addiction. How much of your mental and physical well-being depend on what you're addicted to. For example, people that are on heroin have physical withdrawals. It's a very real disease. But they choose to continue down that path and choose not to seek help. Same thing with, you know, lung cancer. People choose to pick up a cigarette. Lung cancer is a real disease though. The addiction to something is something we can partially control. You know? It really depends on how much we're willing to sacrifice for ourselves. Because, you know, at a certain point you sacrifice your long-term happiness for a short-term rush. And eventually you're going to have to sacrifice that rush, that hit of dopamine, for true fulfillment, for your own well-being. Addiction is a very serious disease that we choose to either combat or we choose to let it control us. I do feel like there's many factors that go into why people become addicted to certain things. And addiction is simply the side effect of something deeper. There's always a root cause, you know, whether it be pleasure, whether it be, you know, mental health, whether it be into environmental factors. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. But people need to understand that it is circumstantial. You can't judge somebody by their addictions. Sometimes people are battling a lot of inner turmoil that you don't see. And honestly, that's my generic answer. But let me get more personal, because I've had addictions for many years. I'm not going to go into detail, but there's been times when I've been real deep in my addictions to where I felt I wasn't in control. Where that little voice in my head that says, that's supposed to say stop, says keep going. It's like a light switch that's to shorten it. It's like a light switch I can't turn off sometimes. And I realize I choose to either repair that switch or to continue letting the damage grow. The addictions I faced, I fought to the point where I don't even get tempted, because I know in that split second when my addiction says go for it, I have to reel it back in and say no, I choose to no longer be addicted. And it's very hard for a lot of people, just as it's hard for me, because an addiction is something you'll have to deal with every day. You know, for especially for addicts that crave nothing but sobriety, there's no overnight fix. You can go 20 years sober and that one relapse. But I feel like addictions can be overcome. You know, even chemical dependencies. Our bodies adapt, our bodies change, our mindsets adapt, our mindsets change. Addiction's a very real disease, you know. You don't really understand how powerful it can be until you go through it yourself. Until you spent years looking back on your life like, well, why did I keep choosing that? Why did I keep returning to that? Even though you know it's damaging to you, you just can't stop. That's what an addiction is, the inability to stop, the necessity of something. But a lot of that, like I said, it does come down to choice though, to either combat it or to let it flow. Addiction can be very powerful, but so can our choices. We have to choose to win against our addictions. It's just like with anything, with fear. We have to choose to conquer our fears, or we can be scared forever. And I feel like if you were to face your biggest fear right now, take whatever you're scared of and look it dead in the face and try to stop being scared, that's what it's like to try to stop an addiction. It can be. I'm not saying that that's, you know, for every situation, but for a lot of people that's what it feels like. It's like facing your biggest fear. It's a choice. We can choose to face it. But in our mind, it's a very difficult choice to make. It takes a lot of strength to break a fear, to break an addiction. But we have to choose to be strong. But sometimes that's a choice we don't have. Sometimes we can't just choose to feel great about ourselves. Because, like I said, a lot of it comes down to chemical imbalances, chemical dependencies, your dopamine and serotonin levels. There's a science to it, you know, there's a science to addiction. But we have to understand that we wire ourselves. We program ourselves. We are what causes our brain to shift and adapt depending on what we consume or don't consume. I believe addiction is very real. It's not like, oh, I choose to fuck up my life. No one chooses. No one chooses to be an addict. Sure, they choose to expose themselves to something, but you will never know what you get addicted to until that first exposure. And by then it's already too late. A lot of reason people don't try drugs is not because they're scared that they won't enjoy them. Because they're scared that they will. Because that's how powerful addiction is. If you've exposed yourself to something, there's no going back. You can't just close your eyes again.